So, believe it or not, I haven't always been the outgoing type. As a kid, I was shy, but somewhere along the way that changed. And now I really, really love talking with people, especially women and especially entrepreneurs. I have a passion, a gift for storytelling that I absolutely attribute to my dad. But I also really like pulling stories out of people, asking questions, going deep, just diving into the real stuff of life so that way we all feel a little bit more connected, we have a little more fun with one another, and just kind of get past any of the small talk and the fake BS that exists. So nothing's too weird, nothing is too weird for me, nothing is ever TMI. It's totally my style to just dive right in. So give me a chance to talk deep, and I will, and I'll jump on it. So with that being said, I was thrilled when today's guest responded to my random string of Instagram voice memos with my latest idea. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's guest, and it's Kara Lehman. So Kara is an herbalist and a beekeeper. She is the founder of Kara Jo Skincare and Kara Jo Bee Farm. Together with her husband, Greg, she hosts a podcast, Minding Your Hive, where they talk about all things bees and farming and chickens and goats and herbs and beer and more. If we're lucky, we might even hear the sound of the 15 chicks Kara and Greg currently have in their house, in their kitchen right now. In addition to all of this, which is amazing in and of itself, Kara has also been an English teacher in the Ambler, PA area over here in Montgomery County for the last 20 years. She has a master's in special education, as well as her yoga teacher certification. She studied mindfulness at Jefferson University Hospital, and she has been a mindful educator and instructor for about the last 10 years, working with students, teachers, businesses, adolescents with special needs, and folks with recovery. So, wow, 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 wow. That's like a really big intro and bio. So, hi, Kara. What's up?
Hi,
How are
thank you for
you?
having me. I'm good. I'm so glad that we're doing this. This is
Yeah.
so great.
So first thing right off the bat, because your product line, your farm is Carajo. Carajo
Yes.
Skincare, Carajo Bee Farm, but I introduced you as Cara, so break it down for me. Carajo.
It's funny. I growing up, people used to make fun of Cara Joe, like call me a hillbilly, but my family always like very endearingly and very lovingly, my grandparents, my cousins
Hmm.
called me Cara Joe. Um, but I never really wanted it. I never really liked it. And when I was starting this thing, I said to my husband, I was like, "What are we gonna name it?" And he was like, "Carajo Skincare." I'm like, I don't like that." And he's like, "We got to do it." He's like, "It's such a great name." And then, so I started it, and it's so funny. So many people, oh, Carajo, Carajo. So I kind of go back and forth. Don't, um, I usually don't. With not in the context of my business, I'd never introduce myself as Cara Joe.
Mm.
But if I'm like at a farmer's market or it's business context, I'll say Cara Joe. And it's just funny to hear in the last couple of years, people,
Mhm.
oh, hey, and they use it. So either one really
What does
doesn't
Greg?
really
What does
matter.
Greg call you?
Cara.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 All right,
So
cool.
yeah, Cara Joe.
Carajo. So let's talk about how our paths have intersected. And I was trying to track this, and I was trying to track this, I think, with one of my sisters. How do we know each other?
So I think I I think I'm the same age as Mary Kate. And Mary Kate's younger than you, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so she's your little sister. I think I'm the same age as her. So I think that's how, like in basketball, I
Mm.
was like on Mary Kate's team, but I think you and I rode the bus together. Did you go to Bluebell Elementary School?
No,
Or like
I went to St. Helena's.
St. Helena's? I thought I was on the bus with you. Like I have this memory of being on the bus with you. Like the
Where did you live?
right near St. Helena. I don't know why we would have been on the bus together. I don't know if like I was like a short bus, so it was
Yeah,
like a kindergarten bus. So I don't know if they picked up St. Helena's kids and
probably
like
because
took them.
there was like nobody on our bus that went to, like they had the little bus come out and get us because nobody out that far went to St.
You were on the
Helens.
little
Oh
bus.
my God, that's so
I
funny.
think we were on the little bus together.
So I figured it was from sports. I figured it was basketball. I figured it was probably that you were in between maybe with me and one of my sisters.
Yes.
So we revolved around each other at that in that elementary age of like all
Yeah,
things
elementary,
happening.
middle. Yeah.
Yep.
And it was always like, "Oh, the Manzo girls, they're so good at sports and they're
Oh,
so cool." I'm like, "Oh, Manzo girls are so cool."
it's so
Like, I just
loud and
remember
there's
that.
so many of them.
They're fun. I just remember, like, just, like being in, like but I only knew about you and Mary Kate. I didn't know about your older sisters until later.
Yeah, there's one
And
older and
then,
then there's one below Mare. Yeah.
um and then I think it was yoga that brought me back to you, just finding you at Whole Foods on the roof.
Okay. Okay.
And I started going to those classes and just like obviously loved coming to your classes. And then teaching at Wissahickon and my friend Steve Mogg, and then you're good friends with him. So then it was like,
Yeah.
I think that kind of like was the connection that brought us back together. Like, oh, Steve. I think it
Yeah.
was like Steve and Molly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that was like our adult
Our
connection.
adult connection. And I have like in my memory, I see you sitting in the old purple studio, and I can't remember if it was Raya or if it was Yoga Home at that point. But you had been in those physical spaces, yeah?
Yes, because I used to live in Conshohocken. I lived in
Okay.
Conshohocken for like 10 years in my 20s, like
Okay.
20s or early 30s.
Yeah.
And I would go to yoga in the park.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I definitely did that.
Cool. So here we are. So
Here we
now it's
are.
2024, and um, I know that you're up to a lot of things, but I want to hear from you, like what it is that you're up to that feels like the most inspiring for you, the most purposeful, the work that you're most excited about.
Yeah. So the thing that makes my heart sing that I love so much is just studying herbalism.
Mm,
Um, in so in 2021, end of 2021, we were living in Ambler. We lost our farm to Hurricane Ida,
mm,
and like woke up in the morning, and we were like woke up in the morning and we are like, we got to go, and we never came back.
mm,
And so, and then also like teaching high school through COVID was just like awful, just
mm,
so horrendous. And then going through that whole being displaced and just like there's so many other things that I just had to confront through that time of just upheaval.
mhm.
And I wanted to quit my job, and I was like, I'm quitting. And Greg, my husband, I went to him and I was like, I want to quit my job. And he was like, but I just quit my job. So like, what, you can't quit your
Yeah.
job. Like, he was in beer sales and he was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And
Mm,
like,
mm,
let's grow the farm.
mhm,
So we did that, and then we lost the farm. And then, so I was like, so I really had to dig deep and be like, what is it that I love?
mm,
And immediately it was plants. You love plants, like
mm,
plants. So I started like pretty quickly, got into this course to become a clinical herbalist, and I've been taking it for the last. I'm gonna graduate in August, so it's been 2 years.
mhm,
Um, and it's like one of those things where it flows through you. It's like I'm relearning something that I've always known and
mm,
that's always been a part of me. And I think
mhm,
like innately we as human beings, like ancestrally, we've known this.
mm, mhm,
Um, but it feels so alive,
mhm,
almost like it's trippy sometimes. Like even last night, it was just like so alive and so just like vibrating in me. Like this is all making sense and it all comes
mm,
together. And um, I'm like, is this real? Like, is this like just like understanding the plants and being able to hear somebody has an issue, and as soon as I hear anybody has like, I have a cough or my big toe hurts or whatever it is, I'm like starting to think like, oh, like how can I work with this person? How can I help this person? So that's really my long-term goal, is to be able to work with people one-on-one, and like bring the power of medicinal herbs and plants. And then it's also, lifestyle, yoga, meditation, diet. So it's like this whole thing that I've kind of been working up to for so many years, that just keeps falling in place. You know what I mean? When
Yeah.
life just like, it
Yeah.
just kind of like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And even with the hurricane, like, it kind of forces you. We were on this one direction in this one path, and then all of a sudden you're totally rocked,
Hmm.
and you're like, oh, I can't go in this direction anymore. This direction is not even an option, so I have to go this direction. And then you kind of navigate it, and it opens up into this amazing, beautiful thing. So like walking around it. So we have this new property in Schwenksville, and it's 6 acres, and it's like a lot of just like, I've been calling it like a tree graveyard, just so many dead trees, and just like not a lot of native life here, and
Mm.
not a lot of diversity of life here. And walking through, this is our first spring, really. Walking through and discovering like, what's here, who's here. Like it's like
Mm.
I'm meeting friends and family, and like, who's here, who's with us, and who do we want to bring here. And it's really, it just is like
Mm.
the coolest thing in the whole entire world.
Mm.
um
Mhm.
so, and I didn't even realize, like, I've been with the skincare with honey, and like I got cinnamon and nutmeg and chamomile and lemongrass and all of these herbs in my products, that I knew that. But then it's like, wow, I didn't even realize I was practicing
Mm.
herbalism and skincare. Like, I knew it, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But like, when you
Mhm.
really learn it and you're like, oh wow, like I actually have been doing this, and I actually did know this. But like, how did I know this? Like, how did
Yeah.
I know these things? And
Mhm.
so just being able to also make my skincare better by like making um therapeutic grade products,
Yeah.
because I understand how to work with them better. And so, yeah, I mean, the plants are just, and it's like the perfect time to just be like excited about plants,
Mm.
because everybody's coming back.
Mhm.
Like, oh, here we are again together, or
Mm.
for the first time.
Yeah, that's so interesting how you talk about it. And I think about this a lot with a lot of different practices, that it really feels like a remembering,
Yeah.
right? And so I love how you talked about that, and like the ancestral realm to it, and like who's here. You know, there are things that like I have experienced in the last couple of years, these like phrases and things that we know, or like that I know in my mind, right? But then all of a sudden you experience it, and it like wakes it up on a cellular level, right? So when I was in Sicily, which is land where my ancestors were from, there's a lot of, in any sort of ancestral work, I think one of the things that comes up is like the land itself, right? Like the dirt and the soil is an ancestor. And like I knew that, I heard that, I honored that. And but then when I was in Sicily, like I felt that. I was like, "Oh my goodness," like just feeling that, remembering on a cellular level of
It's like
things that,
chills all over.
yeah, like things that just felt so familiar and
Hmm.
so old, but also so like right there. It's really, really wild. And so I can appreciate what you're saying about like feeling that way with plants. But I want to like back up, because so when did you birth Carajo Skincare into being?
So I think it was, this year is going to be 10
Oh
years
wow.
officially.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I was at school,
Mm-hmm.
and teaching is,
You were
there's
in school, or you
no,
were like at school? You were
I
you were a
I
teacher.
was teaching. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was teaching.
Yeah.
And um I teaching's kind of a weird job, unlike any other job. Maybe not unlike any other job, but there's no movement. You don't really, you're in the same thing,
Mm.
you're doing the same thing all the time. There's no real promotion, there's no real acknowledgement, there's no real uh, you have to find your own fulfillment because you're not really, you know what I mean? Like, you'll get
Yeah.
kids that it's wonderful and it's beautiful, but like that's a lot of times it's just like grinding and like trying to work through this whole thing. And I was really unfulfilled. And so I decided, well, so I had acne, and I was noticing that I wasn't interacting with my students, and I was like standing up in front of the classroom away from them because I was like embarrassed of my skin. And I was
Mm.
23 years old. My first year teaching, I taught seniors. I had 3 21-year-old boys in my class. Like, don't even ask how
Wow.
that happened. Like, it's a
Wow.
ridiculous
Yeah, yeah,
situation.
yeah.
So, like, I was just struggling to get any kind of respect, let alone have like acne all over my face.
Mm. Mhm.
And I had been trying to clear up my acne for years and years and years to no avail. And I learned about the power of honey
Mhm.
and started using honey and started like making my own skincare.
Mm.
And so, and I just started sharing it with people because I would make these batches and they would be too big for just me. So I would like give them to my friends and at school. And I said, like, and it's like kind of that same thing, like it's just happening. I remember saying to my friends, like, I don't know why I'm asking you for feedback, but you might as well give me feedback on it
Mm.
because I could make it better, I guess, if you don't like it. And then I started sharing it and people started liking it. And then my one girlfriend said to me, she was like, "I'm tired of your Tupperware skincare. Like, it's clean, it's." She had two teenage kids, and she was like, "It's clearing up their acne. Like, I want to buy it. I want to buy it for people for Christmas, and you're selling me your skincare." And I don't know anything about like sales or anything. Like, I'm an English teacher. So Greg was like, but Greg was in sales. He had like managed people and done marketing and done
Mhm.
sales for
Mhm.
all kinds of like
Mhm.
before beer, he was in like telecom equipment and like
Mhm. Mhm.
head hunting and all kinds of stuff. So he was like, "Yeah, we can do this." And I'm like,
Mhm.
"We can." And so in order to sell her anything, I had to buy in bulk because
Mm.
otherwise it would have been like outrageously expensive for her to buy
Yeah.
anything.
Mhm.
So I bought in bulk and he was like, "This is what we're naming it. I built you a website. You have an email address." And I was like, and like, it was basically my friend and Greg that were just like, "Yeah, you're doing this." And I was like, "I'm
Mm.
doing this." Um,
Mm.
and then, and then people would be like, "Oh, you're cute. You're going to make skincare," you know? And I was like, wait, I think it might be good, you know? Like that. And they're like, "Sure, it clears your skin, like, you know what you're talking about." And I was like, "Wait." Um, but then it just like it like I was lucky because I work at a high school, so there's all of these people. So I
Mm.
had the access to all of these people and all of these testers. So it's like testing everything and giving things away for free. And then people were like, "Oh, this works."
Mm.
And then and then I knew so many people in Ambler because I went to Withick High School. I teach at Withick High School. So like I have my people, and then I started doing Ambler Farmers Market, and then it just grew from there. And for
Mm.
so many years I was actually choke holding this thing because I was like, I'm a full-time English teacher. Like, what am I gonna do? And then it really was after Hurricane Ida that I'm like, I need to and I think like just COVID, I think that everybody kind of just like looked at ourselves and we're like, what are we doing? Like, what are
Mhm.
we doing with our lives? How are we spending our time? And I was just like, there's I want to live. I want to be alive. I don't want to, because everyone's always like, oh, keep your job for teaching, the pension, the pension. I'm like, am I living for a pension
Mm. Mhm.
that like
Yeah.
I'm going to retire to when I'm however old, or am I living to live my life today and
Mhm.
be fulfilled by
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
So it's kind of both because
Yeah.
you still
Yeah.
need money, you know what I
Yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So
Totally, totally.
yeah.
All right. So Carriger Skincare has been around for about 10 years. And tell us like what kind of products are in your skincare line?
So, my friend just said this to me the other day, and I loved it. So she was like, "I love that you teamed up with the honeybee." So,
Mm.
I just like kind of thought about that, and I was like, all right, so I'm teaming up with the honeybee and medicinal plants, to make skincare that, so we make like a lot of facial products. It's an extended line. So I make serums and face scrubs and oil cleanser, and I got
Mhm.
some eczema products and a honey
Mm,
mask. A lot of stuff has
mm,
um, like I use honey, uh, beeswax,
mm,
propolis in a lot of my products. Not all of my products have it. And then we use medicinal herbs. We
mm,
infuse them into the oils. Like I have body oils. We have a really awesome bug and tick repellent that's like
mm,
amazing for your skin.
mhm,
It's like it's like you can use it on your face, your body. We have like body scrubs. I make a extended line of soaps.
mhm.
One of my newest products that I really love is, we started a hair care line.
Oh,
So I
cool.
have uh, shampoo, two different kinds of shampoo bars and conditioners, which I was really excited about because
Mhm,
a lot of my products come from solving like what problems do I want to solve, right?
mhm.
And one of the problems was plastic bottles and
Yeah, for
like
sure.
just the shampoo bottles that I'm just like throwing out. And we even make a dish soap bar because I was buying dish soap, right? Like the liquid dish soap, and then I bring it home and I put it in my like cute mason jar with the pump on the top, and I dump it in, and then I take the plastic bottle and I put it in the recycle bin, and I'm like, I gotta stop doing this. I'm just like
Yeah.
buying it and getting rid of it immediately. So so I have that. Greg makes beeswax candles, and he makes like these amazing, I know you like them, the beeswax wraps.
Mhm, mhm.
Um and like I feel like I'm lip balm, just so
Yeah.
like head to toe. I really want to like I have a plan to get into like making tinctures that we can take internally to
Mhm.
support our skin. And so yeah, the dream is big, but we have like an extensive skincare line, including hair care. So it's
That's
pretty
cool.
exciting.
So before you got into the herbalism classes, were you just like teaching yourself how to do this? Were you just doing like research on your own, trial and error?
Yeah, trial
Yeah.
and error, lot of feedback. Like I think a big part of just my success is taking feedback and not being insulted by it.
Mm,
Like
yes, that's a gift.
yeah, right? I had
Yeah.
to well also like I'm a writer, right? So like
Mm,
I'm an English teacher, and I love writing, and so a huge part of the writing process and is feedback and not taking it, you can't take it personally. Like
mm,
people would tear apart my writing,
mm,
and then it's just like this rebirth, and it's never done, and you go back and you look at it with new eyes and you figure it out and you tweak it,
mm,
and you know what I mean, it's kind of like this stylistic thing. So I
mhm.
think that that's like, and I would critique my students writing and they would cry, and I'm like, this is a learning process. This isn't like you,
Yeah.
this isn't a personal attack on you. This is just like a skill that you're working on. So that was a huge part of it. And like my deodorant took so long, like 2 years,
Mm.
before it was ready. And the
Mhm.
bug repellent took so long because people were like, "It works great." And then Greg gets eaten alive by bugs, and he's like, "It's not working." You know,
Yeah.
like, "You gotta
Yeah.
keep going."
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so just and like, I like the puzzle. It's also why I like herbalism, like, what's wrong with somebody? Let's figure it out. Let's kind of put the pieces together and, like, solve the clues. And
Mhm.
so being able to take feedback, I think, is huge. I mean, you've got to see that in your work probably too, right?
I do, but I think that it's different because there is, unless I'm teaching teacher trainings, like I'm not feedbacking students, right?
Right.
And everybody's experience is so different. And there's really not an opportunity unless I'm sending out like a feedback form about something specific. That usually only happens for like retreats or something. So people aren't feedbacking me, but I think it's a superpower to be able to take feedback well and to not take it personally and not have it like trigger or touch into any worthiness wounds, and to
Yeah.
just like understand it's part of growth. And I think my main teacher, Sean Korn, has always been so generous and gracious, and I've always looked to her to like model how she does that, as well as things of like boundaries and different aspects like that. And so, I think it's taken me a while to not take things personally. But again, like I'm just not in that. I'm not in that.
It's totally different. Yeah.
It's totally different. I feel like if I'm being honest, and this is what these conversations are for, I felt like where I felt that more, or where that came up more, was when I was owning Yoga Home, and my role as an owner and a manager and a leader in that capacity. That was much more like feedback oriented, or exit interview, or like those kinds of things.
Yeah. Well, and it's
So
also like you say that, like, I don't remember exactly what you said, but it made me think of when I first started this. Um, I, I, my mom took my skincare to her friends,
hmm
and my mom comes back and she says they want more fragrance,
mm.
and I was just like, yeah, that I'm not going to do that. Like and these aren't my people. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like
totally, totally, totally.
a lot of it, like people will come up to me at farmers markets, not so much anymore, but like attack me for like, oh, you steal honey from bees? And I'm like, okay, calm down. Like that's not, you don't even know what you're talking about. But like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so don't buy my honey. You don't need to. And there's lots of other things that you can buy. And if you don't like my soap, don't buy my soap. Buy other
sure.
people's soap. Like,
Yep.
so it's not everybody. We don't have to be for everybody.
Right. Right.
And I think that that's also like, you don't have to you listen to people's feedback, like, okay, but you don't have to like take their feedback.
Totally. So I want to backtrack again, and because I know some of this story, and you have mentioned it a couple times now, and I want to ask some more questions about it. So you've referenced having a farm before the current farm that you have. So you're in Schwenksville currently, but you've referenced that in 2021, when Hurricane Ida came through, you lost the farm. You
Yes.
lost your previous farm. And where was that farm?
It was an Ambler. It was Ambler, but it was Horsham.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Yeah, and I believe before that, right, there was when we had the like wild and weird tornado that came through our
That was
area.
that.
Oh, that was the same
That
thing?
Yeah, that was it. That was when that Hurricane Ida, where when all those tornadoes touched down.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So
That
it was
was
the same
it. And
thing.
what a
Oh,
tornado started on our property, and
oh.
it ripped through. So this is
Well, I'm
wild.
laughing
So
because it's so wild.
no,
Like we're like
you can
in
laugh.
Eastern Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Right? Well,
Mhm.
even so I like, okay, so we were upstairs, and my back was to the window. I was sitting on my bed and my back was to the window, and Greg is looking at me this way. And he, I guess, sees we get these tornado warnings, but like I'm like, you're not gonna get a tornado.
Was it like storming out already, or was it like
It started, yes.
okay?
Well, it was kind of bad, but so I can't see behind me, but apparently it gets so bad behind me. Like he just sees it like get really bad, like whatever that looks like. And he's like, Carol, we got to get downstairs. I'm like, yeah, get down, go downstairs. Like, this is silly. And he's like, you don't understand. He was like, we need to go downstairs. He was like, this is serious. We need to go down. And he's just like dragging me downstairs. And what had happened was a tornado. So the day before, so we had flooding issues at our house anyway.
Okay.
And I had been tracking this. So many people didn't know this hurricane was coming. I knew this hurricane was coming. Like I was tracking it before it even made landfall in Louisiana. And so I knew it was coming, and I kept saying to him, we got to move the bees. We had 13 beehives at our house at that point. And he was like, we don't have to move the bees. I'm like, we got to move the bees. And I kept saying it and I kept saying it. And then he was just like, yeah, we got to move the bees. So the night before Hurricane Ida hits,
Mm.
it's August. So it's hot. The beehives are at their full stack. They got honey. They're heavy. And it's hot. So they're not all in there hives. So they're
Mm-hmm.
like hanging out outside because it's cooler out there. It's too hot to just like be in the hive,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And we moved 13 beehives that night before the hurricane onto a trailer. And we couldn't move more, like the trailer only fit 13 beehives.
Do you just have a do
We,
you just have a trailer?
yeah, we had a
Uh,
trailer.
okay, okay.
Um, and
And
they
like
fit perfectly.
how heavy is a beehive? Like give us an idea.
Really heavy. Like I'm
Like it's
crying.
taking
Like,
both of you and you're doing
oh
very
yeah.
hard
And
physical labor. Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
And my husband's 6'6", 250, like super strong. And I'm like, "Meh." And what you do is you strap them and then you carry them like Pharaoh. So you have like two by
Oh,
fours
the
and you're carrying
queen.
them like this or like
Mm-hmm.
this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And and
Oh,
like so we put them on this trailer and then we move them to higher ground. And okay, so then Hurricane Ida hits, he grabs me, he's like, we got to go downstairs. And I'm like freaking out. Like, and I'm usually pretty calm,
mm-hmm.
like, I'm not okay. Like, I'm like, not okay. And he goes outside to check things out. And we had two, like 200-year-old oak trees on our property.
Mm-hmm.
And the tornado starts, and you had to get on our property, you had to drive over a bridge. It was the only way to get on the property.
This is
And the
feeling very like
tornado,
Wizard of Ozzy here. The
yeah.
bridge. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the tornado, and the neighbor said he saw the tornado like formulate, and it started right at the bridge and it moves through and it cuts through this 200-year-old oak, and it falls on our bridge, wipes out the bridge, traps us on the property, and then moves right through where all of the bees were,
Wow.
and then knocks down this other, like not even knocks down, just destroys like this other huge, beautiful, like healthy oak tree, and just shreds it and twists it and just like it like evaporates.
Wow.
And then the house floods, we get trapped upstairs. And it's just like this incredibly traumatic, horrible experience. And then we like, you're kind of like processing in that night, but not really understanding. And then we wake up in the morning and we're trapped. But then like all of Fort
Mm-hmm.
Washington, like
Yeah.
everybody was rocked by this. Like we were not the only people that lost our homes in Hurricane Ida.
Yeah.
And so people are trying to get to us, and then we have to like chainsaw this tree apart so that we can even get over the bridge and out. But we wouldn't have even lost the hives. We would have never found a piece of any equipment. They would have just been devastated and destroyed.
Splintered.
Yeah,
So do some of those hives still exist today?
they do. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. I want to ask you more
Yes.
questions about that, but I want to stay on 2021 and Hurricane Ida because, I think, and again, like being with my teacher recently, I've been with Sean Corn twice in the last 9 months, which is interesting because normally
How lucky are you?
I only get to be with her every couple of years. And it's interesting because it's coincided with my self-isolation down here on the beach. It's like such a gift to like be with my teacher when I'm in a period of like discernment and figuring out my next move. But she's talked about this in both of these workshops, and I feel like I talk about this with some of my like healer, helper, therapist friends a lot, is about COVID and about the pandemic. That it's 2024, we're almost like 4 years to the date of
Yeah.
the pandemic, right? Like people,
Mhm.
my family text string are like screen captures of like memories from that time period, right? And I think, I talk about this often that COVID, the pandemic, and COVID, the disease, like kicked my ass. Like I got my ass kicked. But Sean talks about like it really kicked all of our asses in some way or another. And there's no way for us to deny the tremendous amount of impact that this has had on all of us globally, whether there was, something direct that happened to you or not. Like there was still just like a ton of loss, a ton of heartbreak, a ton of grief, a ton of just like life being interrupted. And so I'm I'm curious if this hurricane was like the epitome of your COVID moment, or if there were like other pieces of that time period that also felt like they really changed you. And change can be good and bad, and you know, like all of those things in between. But I'm curious if this is like your COVID moment.
Yeah, I mean, this was this. There were things happening before with the house and with the property, and we were just like in a bad spot. And then this actually is awful and is like just disrupting as it was. It actually was our ticket out of this like
Mm,
kind of bad situation that we were in, but it didn't come easily.
yeah.
It's interesting because I did this insanely powerful meditation to Ganesh like a couple months before the hurricane. Like
Tell everybody who
our
Ganesh is if they don't know who Ganesh is.
Ganesh is the elephant god, right? The elephant head, body, human body. The son of Shiva, and I guess it depends on what form, but what is Shiva's wife's name? I'm losing it right now. I can't think of her name right and at the top of
Sita?
my
No, I don't. Yeah,
uh
I'm not. This is not my
whatever.
wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But what is Ganesh
But
symbolic of?
Ganesh, sometimes I'm like, damn it, Ganesh. Ganesh is the god of like, what do you want? You want something, you ask Ganesh for it, right? And you can get it, but you're gonna be you might not get it easily. Like if you want to have a good day, you can on your way to work chant to Ganesh, right? I want to have a good day today. Um, and I basically asked for exactly what I've got where am right now, but my path there has been just this really difficult, like gut wrenching and like stripping. Like I have been stripped everything that has not served me, everything that I've been carrying around my entire life that
Mm,
I didn't even know I was carrying around that I had struggled with in even subconsciously has been stripped. And even at moments when I thought that I could not be stripped and broken down any further, I would get knocked down further. And there was just like and the epitome of it was last summer. Like so we this is actually we tell these stories on our podcast, Mind Your Hives, because it deals with bees, moving bees, and just like our bees and our life and our farm and everything. Um, and So we move into a property, another farm from my friend, and then she goes completely wackadoo. She kicks us out. We're displaced again. Like, and it's just like hitting after hitting after hitting, and then she's just doing all these terrible things. So right, you're at your lowest and you're triggered because you're displaced again, and you're still trying to figure all these things
mhm,
out, and
mhm.
um and and then yeah, just getting hit over and over again. And I remember probably in July last year, just sitting and just being like, I don't think I can handle another thing. I don't think I can go any lower. Like I already thought I was at my lowest and I don't think I can go any lower, and just being like, I am stripped. This is it. I'm at my
Mm,
core. Like
mhm.
there is nothing left than just like the essence of like who I am, and then you rebuild from there. But like it's actually what I think the way I put it is it's the worst gift I've ever been given. It's or
Yeah,
yeah, it's the worst gift I've or no, is it the worst gift or but like the whatever, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it's just been so yeah, like I mean, how many just being stripped by COVID of all of these things, and
Mhm.
then you have to reorient yourself to like I was saying before, like, okay, where am I at? Who am I? What do I want?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what does this new whatever look like? you know? Um, so it is really like a gift in this way, because I also couldn't look at it any other way than a gift, because it was just so dark and so I was just like so heartbroken. I don't think I could be more
Mm.
heartbroken by
Hmm.
more people that I really just,
Yeah, totally.
was betrayed by, that I'm like, okay, like,
Yeah.
how can I come out from this, and how can I be better from this? And then it brought me closer to my husband. It brought me closer to my friends and the people that were there, and like, okay, who's here?
Yeah.
Who do I want to surround myself with? And like, what do I want to spend my time doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the Ganesh I know, right? The remover of obstacles, and that he'll take his sword or his whatever and take everything out of the way. But yeah, it might not be easy, it might not be painful, and yet the hope is that at some point that silver lining, or that ability to see all of those things had to happen for me to be here. And I had similar kind of like energetic experience of COVID. Like I just felt like every piece of me just got like stripped away or lost or changed. And I can remember standing in my kitchen and like telling someone, like, I just felt like so raw. I felt like a chicken. I don't even know anything about chickens. a chicken that had like molted and was just like standing
Yeah.
there for everybody to look at them, and was like, oh, this is like so wildly uncomfortable, painful, heart-wrenching. And I think this is part of my practice, and I think maybe part of yours, like, and I had to believe
Yes.
that there was going to be another side of it, right? Because it's what I teach. Like, change is constant, discomfort is temperate, right? Like, let go of the ego, right? And it's like, also, it was the second time in my life where I had, been starting to do some praying, meditating, reflecting on things need to change. And how are they going to change? And then, the first time it happened to me was via fire. And then the second time it was the
Yes.
fucking global pandemic, and then catching COVID. Right. And so it's like, these things aren't easy, and I wouldn't wish them on anyone. And I feel like I'm still coming out of COVID, but like when I had my fire, like I knew very, very quickly, like what a gift it was. What a gift it was. My experience is like, the older we get, the harder it gets, right? Because I'm just a little bit more like stuck in my ways, or know what there is to be afraid of. And like for me, so much
Yeah.
of that is around like finances and stability and all of that. So yeah, COVID was a real, real game changer.
But you find a way. You find a way.
Totally.
Like, and like, you show up. You show up, even you just show up, even if all you're doing is being there physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, the remover of obstacles. That's a good,
Yeah.
the remover of obstacles. So,
And the just showing up, and like, I think this is like also the crux of, like, it's the crux of the teachings, right? And I know that you agree with this because I've watched some of your things. I think it was a video you posted recently on one of your many pages of like, this is the work, is like to just be with it. And so to be in a mindfulness based practice, or a heart based practice, or a spiritual based practice, does not mean that any of these hard things aren't going to happen to us. It doesn't even mean that they're going to be easier. It just means we choose to like sit with it and let it be, and let it unfold and feel it. Um,
and
and
like,
yeah,
acknowledge it and honor it, and like, give it
yeah,
grace. Allow it
yeah,
to, you know, because if you just resist it, then you're not getting anywhere. You
you're
know what
not
I
getting
mean? Then you're
anywhere.
fighting with it here.
Right. And then it gets,
And
and then like that energetic practice of like, and if you resist it or keep trying to change it or fix it, right, then all of that just gets like reabsorbed back into your tissues and your
yes.
cells, and becomes disease and imbalances. And so for like folks that are listening, that, I still think even 20 years into this, like I've got to check myself sometimes and go, dude, just because just because you're like a yogi doesn't mean it's like, it's not a get out of jail free card, right?
Yeah.
For any of this. In fact, it just, I feel more now that I'm a yogi, which at times is fucking brutal. Like, it's fucking brutal.
Well, and I think that's like the problem is that there are so many difficult things happening in our world right now, right?
Yeah.
And people don't have the practice to be able to look at it and bear witness to not
Hmm.
only our own pain but to the pain in our world. And so they and I think so many people don't have the skills to
Yeah.
be able to do that, so they don't, because it's too painful. And
Yeah.
that's I just wish that more people could kind of bear witness to our own pain, but bear witness to the pain that's happening all
Yeah.
over. And I
Yeah.
think things would be a lot different if we could do that and be with rather
Yeah.
than I mean, some you don't have to be with all the time. That is like way too painful, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes we got to be like, all right, not right now. Um,
Sure, because
but
we have to have other practices, right? That keep us in balance, right? And so this is like a great segue to talk about like some of the sweetness of life. And so let's talk about the bees. Let's talk about the bees. Let's talk
yes,
about what you're doing with the bees. Let's talk about how you got attracted to the bees. I think that probably everybody, like even people that aren't into like healthy living, have heard like over the course of the last decade, like how important the bees are and that the bee populations have been dwindling. But can you tell us a little bit? Let's start with like why that's important, why that matters, and then let's go into like how your relationships with the bees started.
so why it matters is because not just because I mean everybody knows like you get rid of the bees, you get rid of the food, right? We're not gonna have food if we don't have bees. Everything's so integrated. Like the bees are a reflection of the health of everything. Um,
And
and
certain
so,
types of bees or any kind of bees?
well, it's interesting that you say that because honeybees are not native bees, right? Honeybees are like agriculture. So it's like when people say save the bees, it's not really honeybees.
Mm,
That would be like I made the joke that like on our podcast, I was like, it's like save the cows. Like we don't need to save the cows. The cows are being farmed. Like
mm.
that's why it's Carrier Skincare and Bee Farm. We have like we're farming bees. Um
Wait,
so
hold on. You got to explain that to me again. So the honeybee, you said the honeybees are like agriculture. Like they don't need being saved. We can farm them. We can
like yeah, so
cultivate
we cultivate
cultivate
them.
space for them. Okay.
Yes.
So what we're talking about when we're talking about save the bees is native bees.
Native pollinators.
What are native bees?
So many different native like bumblebees,
Okay.
mason bees,
Never even heard of
like
that.
um you know, sweat bees, there's all different kinds of sweat bees like, and just like they don't even have to be bees, just like native pollinators in general, like
Mm,
hoverflies, so there's just so many different pollinators that like solitary bees that just like live by themselves.
mm,
um and so the thing is like honeybees, not that honeybees aren't important. Honeybees are important. We love them. They're a big part of our lives, um but so honeybees are what's the word called, generalists. So they can go and they can harvest and like eat from many, many, many different kinds of plants, right? They don't have to be native. They can be invasive. They can be introduced. It doesn't matter. They can really they're like raccoons. Like raccoons can go get trash and they can, it doesn't really matter. The
mm,
raccoons are probably not going to starve.
mhm,
Native pollinators have a lot of them have evolved along with native flora, so that's what they know and that's what they eat. And a lot of like we have like mason bees that we don't hatch them, we just kind of like house them. We have like a little um, native bee house, and the mason bees just came out. Well, the mason bees are going to be done all of their pollinating by I think the end of May, and then they go back and they are gone until next April.
oh,
And so they're kind of just like cooking in their little cocoon, right? And like becoming full mason bees. So if there's not plants for the mason bees to feed on, the mason bees aren't going to be around. So they've evolved with flora between like April and May.
Okay.
So native bees, like the monarchs and milkweed is like everybody kind of knows that one, right? Like the monarchs need milkweed. I don't know if you know that, but they do. Because
Now we're on
that's
to
where the
butterflies. We're talking about butterflies.
yes,
Okay.
but like pollinators, they're
Hmm.
pollinators.
Okay.
But they have to have milkweed to lay their eggs
Okay.
and to be able to because the larva eats the milkweed and whatever. So much habitat, we have lost so much native habitat to invasive introduced species, to just habitat loss, people tearing down and building, to people spraying weed killers, to our obsession with big lawns with nothing in them, right?
Yeah. 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 Totally. Can I like
So
ask a question really quick though?
yeah,
Because
of
I think
course.
I don't know some of these answers, but I think if I think back when I first started learning about bees, so like when I think about like save the bees and hearing the word pollinator and like plants, I'm like, oh, so if I put some pretty flowers on my porch, that's going to attract the bees. And like that's not necessarily the case, or that is the case.
No, that's the case. That's great.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
great.
Hmm.
Plant the flowers. You know what I mean? Like, um, but we want to. There's a couple things when you plant the flowers. One, if you can plant native plants,
Tell us what
that's
you mean
not
by native.
native. Are they're originally from here.
Hmm.
So some native plants are like yarrow, uh, crab apples.
Hmm.
Depends on the crab apple. Red bud trees, like those beautiful pink
Hmm.
trees that are budding right now.
Hmm. Great. So
What
things
else?
that are native to the area that you live in.
Yes,
Right. Okay.
exactly.
Hmm.
Um, so that will support not only honeybees, because honeybees will go there, right? But also native pollinators who there might be a plant, let's say it's a butterfly bush,
Hmm.
right? Butterfly bushes attract a lot of pollinators, but they're like highly invasive and they're not. I don't know if this is true about butterfly bushes, but they're not native, right? Butterfly bushes. And there could be a native pollinator who did not evolve along with butterfly bushes. So the butterfly bush could be there, ready, full of nectar, full of pollen for the taking,
Mm,
and then native pollinator doesn't even go to it because it has no idea.
got
And it,
it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Yep. Yep.
but
Totally.
but the honeybee will go and it'll love it and it'll be great.
Yep.
And I'm not like, especially as I learn about herbalism, like I'm not a lot of people are like angry at the plants because they're invasive. Like
Mhm.
it's not the plant's fault, it's the people's fault. Like, so what choices can we make? And,
Mm,
plant, if you have the space, plant a bush, because just imagine how many more flowers are on a bush than are on a couple wildflowers.
yeah.
And if you have even more space, plant a native tree, because think about how many flowers are on a flowering native tree than on a bush, than on a,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
mean, if all you can do is keep your dandelions in the ground, like wonderful, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And so when you are, is the right terminology like that you are farming bees, you are harvesting bees?
Well, we're not harvesting bees, we're harvesting honey, right? I don't know if
Okay.
people say farming bees, like we say we farm bees.
Okay. So you have hives, you have,
And yeah, we have hives, we have an apiary, we
and
have
are they for a certain type of bee?
they're honeybees. So
They're for
honeybees are
honeybees. Okay.
yeah, they're originally from Asia.
Okay. So when anybody talks about that they have like hives on their property and they're harvesting honey, it's a honeybee.
Correct. Yeah.
Native bees, we're not we're not doing the same thing with native bees. Native bees are almost like wild. Would that be an appropriate word?
Yeah, like you can um you can do some things with mason bees. I'm not that versed in mason bees, but we do have like, you can set up and if you Google this, just like you might see those like reeds. They're like those like little houses or like little circles, and then there's all those like
Yeah.
reeds, and so that's like a way to like support native pollinators.
Okay. Okay.
And then planting, so you can some, because all these people are like, I want to be a beekeeper, and we're like, you don't need to be a beekeeper, like, because beekeeping is actually like very complicated, and there's so many beekeepers. And one of my mentors has said, and I love this saying, like, we don't need more beekeepers, we need better beekeepers.
Mm.
So you don't need to be a beekeeper,
Hmm.
but like you can support the pollination population in lots of different ways.
Yeah.
That's really important, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah. Right. We could, like, I can support beekeepers by, like, the things you just said: let your dandelion stay in the ground, plant bushes, do these things with the space that you have. And also, I would imagine, not spray
Yeah.
pesticide and herbicides, because if a plant of any kind has an herbicide or a pesticide on it, will the bee just like skip over that plant, or is the bee going to go into that plant and then it's just going to spread? Like, with what happened? What's like part of that process? Like when the bee gets to the pesticide plants, what happens?
They're intaking the glyphosate just like we would be if, we're eating food with it, and then it's weakening their systems, like
Right.
weakening their gut biome,
So that's how they're
making
dying
them.
off.
It's that, and there's actually this varroa mite that is essentially it's like if you and I were walking around with a squirrel
Uh huh.
attached to us and sucking on the fatty tissue of our organs and spreading and
Okay.
like carrying like 20 plus known viruses and diseases. And then so we not only have to combat this like fat, like life sucking pest that's on us, but also we're weakened by habitat loss. We're weakened by pesticide use,
Yeah.
and um and like, I mean, there's like so many other
Yeah.
things, but
That sounds
yeah,
awful
that's
and
like,
terrible.
yeah, it's awful and terrible. It's
It
awful and
also
terrible.
does
So
does kind of sound like what's happening to humans in some way.
that's what
Um,
I'm saying. Like when you said what's important about the bees, like it's what's important about the bees is we're they're a reflection of us, and
yeah.
they're a reflection of our world and the health of our world.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. All right. So we're going to go to, just to be mindful of time, we're going to go to last call questions that are just like off the cuff, quick
Okay.
answers, not polished. And
Okay.
then we'll share with where folks can buy your products and where they can find you and all of that jazz.
Okay.
Um, okay. So where's my like last call questions? Okay. Um, last book you read.
It was um Chinese medicine herbalist. I don't remember what it's called, but like something about a tiger and understanding Chinese medicine herbal. All I've been reading lately is just like herbalism. I've been devouring it.
Okay, you've been devouring it, Tiger. Mine was The Women by Kristen Hanna. It was amazing. It was amazing, amazing. Okay, what are you listening to? What music are you listening
Another
to?
um
Music, not podcast. What music?
music.
Mm-hmm.
Music. I listen to a lot of blues music. It's funny, ever since Hurricane Ida, like I'm like, what's happening? Like I listen to blues, I listen to jazz.
Mm,
Yeah, I
okay.
find myself just like being drawn to that a lot. What about you?
Oh, I've been like Beyonce, Cowboy Carter, like on
Oh, nice. That's
repeat,
like
repeat,
nice.
repeat,
Feeling
repeat.
good.
All right, how about TV? What shows are you into? Or last one you watched? Or what did you watch last night if you watched anything?
See, I've been watching my herbalist. I've been watching my
Okay.
herbalist like classes. But I did, what did I just watch
Do you
recently?
watch Abbott? Do you watch Abbott Elementary?
I don't, but I did watch that. What is that? The King and the Queen and the did you watch that one? Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth?
No, no,
She's like
not
this
me.
black woman queen, and she's like powerful, and she's ruling, and it's like this. I
Was
don't
it
remember.
like a Bridgerton spinoff?
Yeah, Bridgerton, that's what it was.
Okay, okay, all
Yeah,
right.
I watched that. I like, you know what I like? I like terrible teenage like romance things,
Okay,
like
all right.
really cheesy stuff. I love that
I
stuff.
mean, Bridgerton was pretty good. My nieces got me
Bridgerton
into.
was good. I
Yeah,
liked
they
it.
made me watch it. It was really good.
Yeah.
Okay, what's a thing recently that you've been getting angry about? Something that's pissed you off?
Just the effects of that COVID have had on our society and like our children.
Mm,
And it's just been, and that the fact that now they have to exist in this this structure, specifically schooling, because that's like their structure, right? Like that's where they have to exist, and that doesn't work, that has been
mm,
shattered for them because they saw it shattered, and they're like, well, this isn't real, and like,
mm,
why are we doing this? And we're just trying to fit it in, and everybody's just not teachers, but the everybody else is just trying to cling on to this for dear life and say like, we got to make it work, and just like, the system is broken, like, can we
mm,
just blow it up and try a different way? And I don't know if it's ever gonna change.
yeah. So the next question might be the same thing, might be different, might be something different. What breaks your heart?
The suffering in Gaza breaks my heart so much. I don't think there's anything more painful
Mm,
than that. I just think it's like, I mean, talk about bearing witness to suffering and like seeing a broken system. Yeah, it's
mm,
just awful, and like, just so broad. It just like, the strokes of it are just so broad.
mm, mhm. And then likewise, like what gives you faith? What inspires you to keep showing up?
Um, just everybody else showing up, everybody else showing up, and yeah, and laughing with people, and the beauty of the spring, and seeing what's coming to life again after all of this. The plants just keep showing up, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then last one, is there one practice that you've have found yourself gravitating towards lately? And it might be like a yoga practice, meditation. It might be just watching plants, and that might be the practice.
yeah, I think, like we had talked about it before, because I did, on my Instagram, I have like a mindful teacher on Instagram. Um, like looking at like when I feel resistance, and when I kind of like, I have moved through so much over the last couple years that it's like, okay, now what's here? Like, what, like, let me see what's here, and kind of just like acknowledge it and honor it, so that I can just keep moving through it. Like, I'm not interested in getting stuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just want to move to the other side, and I want to build this farm, and I want to build my dreams. And so, like, if there's kind of like this ick, just like look at the ick and just like be there with it, and
Mm-hmm.
be able to be loving through the ick, and love the ick,
Yeah,
and be compassionate to it.
and it's hard to believe, but it really is the faster way through it. At the end of the day. At the end of the day, right? Yeah.
Kicking and screaming and
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
is.
All right, friends. So you can find Kara at karajoskincare.com. That's KARAJO skincare.com to buy her honey, to buy her organic skincare line, to look at a lot of other goodies. She's in a lot of different places on Instagram. She's at Karajo Skincare, Karajo Bee Farm. Her podcast with her husband, Greg, is at Mind Your Hives. You can also follow her at A_mindful_teacher to get some glimpses into how she's bringing mindfulness into the field of education. If you're local, you can find Karajo products at Weaver's Way in Ambler, Dave's Backyard Farms in Huntington Valley, Hirschberger Heritage Farm in Sellersville, Lucky's Roadside Stand in Roxborough, and then you're in a bunch of different farmers markets and events, and that everybody can find on your website too, right, Kara?
Yeah.
Cool. So we will
Nice.
link.
You had good info there. You knew everything.
So thank you so much. Thanks for listening. We'll link all of that into the show notes. Kara, I hope that we can chat again. I hope that I get to see you live in the flesh soon,
I
because I
know.
feel
That would
like
be wonderful.
I feel like we could just like sit around literally all day and just like
All day.
gab
All
and
day.
talk.
Yeah.
And good luck with those 15 chicks that are like in the back
They're
tweeting
so, I
away.
know. I wonder if you heard them. They're so sweet.
Little squeaky squeak. So I will talk to you later.
Thanks, Maura.
You're welcome.